Alright, let's make a video. Alright, but hello everybody, welcome back. It's been, I should say welcome back, it's more like welcome to something new. As you can clearly see, I'm still in my home, but it's been a hot minute, and by a hot minute I mean several months, since I last put something out here. Partially that's just because of 2020, let's be honest. I got very busy with lots of different things, but also just kind of existing and managing everything that's going on. But in that time I found myself exploring lots of different things and drawing inspiration from lots of different stuff, which sparked the creation of this. This is what I'm basically just calling monthly favorites, and what it simply is, it's a collection of things that I have done or seen or watched or read or listened to that I think people would enjoy doing, seeing, watching, reading and listening to as well. And just passing that on. I think it's just sharing a few things that I've enjoyed throughout the month, and then the hope is that maybe there'll be like there'll also be like a return of said sharing where you guys will share some stuff with me and we'll kind of keep the cycle going, because I can't always keep hunting for new things. But the idea that it's going to work is very loosely, it's kind of, I think it's sort of gonna, we'll see what happens, we'll just kind of throw things to the wall and see what sticks, but there isn't any kind of set pathway. But right now it's going to be sort of a movie that I've watched, and like a new movie that I haven't seen before, not one that I've rewatched, because I've rewatched a ton of films, or even maybe a TV series if I've been kind of binging a new series and haven't really watched many films, and maybe I'll throw that in there. A book that I have read or are currently reading or finished that month, just kind of give some conclusive thoughts about it. Some music I've been listening to, especially in lockdown. I think we could all use a mixture of music, whether it is like something very dramatic that you want to walk around in the woods to and imagine that you are, like, you know, in a period drama, or something that you just want to dance in your bedroom to after you've had a shower and you just want to like dance around and like boost your energy because it's a fucking horrible day out, which it has been for me. So a lot of the music that I've been listening to lately has been sort of along that, because the weather here in the UK is absolute hot garbage, which is pretty typical of it, but it's just been extra hot garbage because we're not allowed to leave our houses. But that's okay, it gives me more time to make stuff like this. As well for me, because I've just got so many other things going on kind of behind the scenes and off camera, I will probably be trying to upload them once a month now. Let me start off by saying I know that this is probably going to get uploaded in November, and I'm talking about September's monthly favorites. I'm trying to catch up with myself because I promised myself back in September that I would make these, and I had all the notes there, but I just didn't have the right frame of mind or the free space, because as I said, it's a shared living space, to sit down and actually make these. So I'm catching up on myself, and then hopefully by December it'll be to once a month. So I say we're just going to jump straight into it. So the first film, I say first film, but the first thing is going to be the film I watched, and I actually took this as a recommendation from one of my good friends, one of my film buff friends, and it's Good Time. Good Time came out in 2017. It is sort of a joint production of Alara Pictures and Raya Films. I think I'm pronouncing those right. It might be like Alara or Elara Films and Raya Films. I don't know, Americans. Because it's done by Benny and Josh Safdie, or better known as the Safdie brothers, and this was one of their amazing films that's kind of come out. Starring what everybody's having a lovely resurgence of, our good friend Robert Pattinson, or Robbie P, as we're all calling him. I call him Robbie P, and I want it to just kind of catch on because I think it's fun. Yeah, Good Time essentially is Robert Pattinson, male lead. I think he got a couple of nominations as well for the for that male lead role. He's playing a bank robber that's stopping at nothing to basically save his brother, who's in prison, and in doing so finds himself engaging with the criminal underground. The film itself, I've actually seen one of their more recent films, so I have seen Uncut Gems. That was like my first introduction to the Safdie bros. And it was a wonderful film, so I kind of had an idea of what their style and sort of visual vibe is. So going into this film, it was nice to see that this was actually a lot more raw, in my opinion, in terms of kind of just performances and camera work, as well. I think with a few like little directorial decisions. I mean, I'd love to go into a little bit more depth about it, but overall, wonderful film. IMDb, it's got a 7.4 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is roughly 92% last time I checked. That might have changed. If you're in the UK, I managed to catch it on Netflix, but again, that was back in September, so I don't know if it's still there. Give it a look if you can. If not, I'll leave some links below to where you can find it and support those Safety Bros without shilling out to too many large corporations. Next up is a book that I finished reading back in September, but I was reading it throughout most of the months of being in lockdown, and it was actually quite a good book, I think, to read in lockdown. For me, I'm not a huge reader, okay? I have a very short attention span, so sometimes if it doesn't hook me or if it's not something that directly I can kind of put some imagery or put some relatability to, you might lose me. So I don't read a ton of fiction. I tend to be reading a lot of books around storytelling and photography, and at the moment, sort of self-growth and psychology books. Try to avoid self-help. I've read a few self-help books, but this one that I'm going to recommend now actually does a good job at actually tearing down the self-help industry a lot, and why it's actually not helpful for your happiness and it's probably causing you a lot more anxiety. The book itself is called Happy by Darren Brown. I've got a lovely example of it here. Darren Brown, if you don't know who he is, he's a magician slash illusionist slash one of the OG social experiment people who does stuff on TV, mostly known for kind of hypnosis and putting people in difficult situations to see how it will play out. Also very notably known for convincing a man to go assassinate Stephen Fry, which obviously didn't happen because Stephen Fry's still around. But what I love is actually on the front cover of this, Stephen Fry leaves a little testimonial saying it's really brilliant and just crammed with wisdom and insight. And that makes me chuckle. I don't know why, just that little inside joke makes me chuckle. To save me butchering an explanation for it, I'm going to read you the blur on the back and then talk about some of my thoughts regarding it. So the blur says, across the millennia, philosophers have thought long and hard about happiness. They have defined it in many different ways and come up with a myriad of strategies for living the good life. Drawing on this vast body of work, in Happy, Darren Brown explores changing concepts of happiness from the surprisingly modern wisdom of the Stoics and other such ancient classical times right up until today. When the self-help industry has attempted to claim happiness as its own, he shows how many of the self-help industry's suggested routes to happiness and success, such as positive thinking, self-belief, and setting goals, can be disastrous to follow and indeed actually cause anxiety. This brilliant, candid, and deeply entertaining book exposes the flaw in these ways of thinking and in return poses challenging but stimulating questions about how we might allow ourselves to flourish and live more happily. Now, I wouldn't say that last part is hugely true in regards to how we might flourish and live more happily. But in terms of challenging those thoughts and giving a lot of point evidence and explanation around it, this book is wonderful. I really enjoyed the history lesson. Now and again it lost me. I tend to read in the mornings and go like a chapter each morning with a cup of coffee, but even then sometimes maybe I just haven't woken up enough when I'm reading or the coffee hasn't sunk in yet. So I'm there like, I don't want a history lesson on Aristotle right now and his teachings. But in reality I did. This book was wonderful to read. I think it came at a wonderful time in lockdown as well for me because we're all trapped indoors and struggling with different things. So a lot of the time it's just posing ways that you can achieve different thinking. One of my main kind of takeaways from it was actually this idea of relinquishing control over everything but your own thoughts and actions. Because when you accept that you can't control how other people think and act, and you can only control yourself and those such things, you find it quite liberating and you're not as anxious or worried, because instead of anticipating what everybody else might do, you say, well, I can't control what they're going to do, but I know what I'm going to do in this situation. And I trust my judgment on it that it's going to be something that's good and constructive and kind, more so than anything else. A few other things in there as well, which are really, really lovely. So what I've learned about Stoicism is actually very much engaging with all aspects of life and the emotional spectrum, and very much being in tune with those things and taking it all into consideration to what the Stoics believe to be the considered life. So it was wonderful, as well as a few other things that were put in there. And if you're into it, it's quite a chunky book, but for me as a reader, it was a fun challenge, and I'm glad that I got through it. And it definitely was very enlightening for me with things that I found journaling later on about. Next up is some music that's been really helping me. Now, as I said, I've been listening to a lot more upbeat music, but this is a band that kind of took me by surprise. It kind of came out of nowhere for me. I actually discovered them through TikTok, and I found this marketing strategy to be amazing. They're called The Main Squeeze, and they are an American funk rock band based out of Bloomington in Indiana, and they're amazing. They really are. I think for me, they've got a very rich and energetic sound, and that's what I love about it, because at the moment I needed something that just gets me pumped, it gets my head bobbing, or it gets me kind of doing like a little dancing groove, like around the house. Like if I'm cleaning or trying to make some lunch, I've got that in the background. I've been listening to them over the last couple of weeks. I found out about them because a couple of months into quarantine, I downloaded TikTok like most other people. Mostly was following musicians and music type stuff, so I discovered on there, they got recommended to me through that, and then I found them through Spotify and other such means, and I've been listening to them ever since. They're wonderful. They're really, really, really wonderful. I recommend that you do check them out. Lyric-wise, they've just got a lot of charisma as well, performing it. And if you haven't already, check out their TikTok, because it's wonderful how they've basically all just moved in a house together, and they just jam out all the time in the garden and send out some positive vibes. So definitely go and give them a check.
I know what you're thinking, cause I'm thinking it too. Just make a move, I bet you won't do it.
Last up is essentially some photography related stuff. Now, if you're not a huge photographer, that's fine. A lot of other people that inspire me. I've been shooting a lot of film photography lately. I got into that thanks to an old roommate of mine, I want to say about a year ago. So since then, I've been following lots of different people, digital and film based, and they've been giving me lots of different recommendations around stuff. One person in particular that I grabbed right at the start of quarantine when they started selling things was Joe Greer's book. It's called, I've got it here actually, it's called NYC I Love You. Now, the camera's probably not going to pick that very well, but I'll get some close-ups for you. This book is amazing for a photo book. I've seen a couple, I've owned a few and borrowed some friends to read. Whilst in the quarantine, I've been wanting to take photos but unsure what to do. Also just trying to grow my confidence, and Joe Greer was somebody who's very confident, very brave with this photography here. There's lots of different photos in here. I'll show a couple of like little snippets and teasers because I don't want to get copyright claimed by him. There is just some fantastic photos in here which just seem to candidly capture New York City, and the people of it. More importantly, it's a lot of portraiture of people, a lot of street photography, and there's some things that feel very avant-garde and a little invasive, but in a very intimate way. You want to think, it kind of challenges your thinking because you want to think it's posed, but it looks way too candid for that. And I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I'll leave a link down below for where you can find it, as well as Joe's Instagram to go check it out. He's an absolutely amazing photographer, and you should definitely check him out. The book itself, beautifully made. I love the very dark green, almost black kind of cover to it with the gold lettering and kind of almost handwritten font in it. It's a wonderful message. The layout for it as well, being wonderful. It's almost kind of, each one is A4 with white borders around it. Like each photograph is basically has its own page dedicated to it. There's a mixture of color and black and white photos in here, and it seems to, for me, the best way I can describe it is there's lots of different things that remind me of lots of different portrait photographers over the years. So it's a wonderful collection of photos that almost is basically telling you the story of somebody who's been living in New York for a long time, and it's dedicated to those years and those memories that are there. So it's almost like a photo album rather than a photo book that reminds me of, you know, lots of different family portraits, but instead it's just showing off the community and the people of New York. So definitely, if you get a chance, pick this up and have a read of it. If you've got some suggestions of stuff to check out, leave it down below. I'm very open-minded in checking out different things. If you want to throw in some things in there, like a hobby that you've been trying out, or a particular skill that you've been trying out, or even like a YouTuber or a streamer that you enjoy that you want to just pass on because you think I'll like them, throw them my way. I would love to see them. And in that case, guys, I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye bye.